You were right. UFOs, even if they are real, will be used to create massive military budgets and huge distractions. What a surprise. Hello there, you 6.5 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining us on this intergalactic voyage to truth and freedom where non-biological, non-human, non-terrestrial entities move among us, where the miracle of consciousness appears to exist elsewhere in the universe and the Pentagon use it to generate greater military expenditure while still not acknowledging that it's actually true. We're of course looking at the UFO hearings. We're examining whether or not there are non-human entities among us, whether or not there are recovered extraterrestrial spacecraft, and why, as usual, you were right that this is being used to generate extra military expenditure without ever really acknowledging the deep reality suggested by these whistleblowers' revelations. Let's have a look at the story. Starting off with this tweet from the Empire Files. Wonder if all the UFO stuff suddenly being entertained by Washington has anything to do with this. US Space Force budget hits $30 billion in 2024 proposal. That sounds like the government to try and use a cultural or public phenomena to generate more revenue for Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. There are extraterrestrials from another dimension, and they come here in peace. That's why we've asked Lockheed Martin to build these new deadly fucking things. President Biden's $842 billion budget request for the Defense Department for fiscal year 2024 includes $30 billion for the US Space Force, the largest funding request to date for the military space branch. How like the governments of our time to take the ontological miracle that there are advanced intergalactic species communicating with us, some of you believe that, some of you don't, and turn it into additional expenditure for military private contractors. This is a sort of miracle akin to the kind of revelations that you would read in scripture. There are pervasive intercosmic consciousnesses communicating with us. Potentially this has been happening throughout civilization. Maybe the reason there are gaps in our observable evolution is because for a long time we've been communing with advanced species that perhaps have even been involved in our advancing civilization. Perhaps some of the phenomena we discuss in scripture, religion, in temples and synagogues around the world relates to these heavenly beings, these orbs in the sky, these chariots of fire. So, I've spoken to Raytheon and we're going to blow those motherfuckers right out of the sky. The proposed budget procures and modernizes capabilities to secure the use of space in the face of increasing threats to US national security space systems, the Pentagon said in budget documents. So while this is a very novel story, I mean, for someone my age, it's almost ridiculous that in public there are congressional hearings in those rooms that we're familiar with now from like McCarthyism and mob hearings where people are discussing people from outer space. We're going to need more money. And also identifiable and peculiar, yet oh so typical, is fear. This is frightening. This is a threat. There are advanced extraterrestrial beings. Because another interpretation could be, well, what the hell are we having a war between Ukraine and Russia for if there are extraterrestrial beings? They could be a threat, they could be friendly, we don't know yet. One thing's for certain, we all live on one rock in limitless space. We should be turning our attention and our combined efforts to finding ways to live peacefully. How can that ever be possible? Clearly, a massive and defining culture like American culture is falling apart right now. There's no reason to have centralized systems in the way that we do. What we perhaps could advance are new ways of living, new ways of worshipping together, new ways of affording one another the maximum amount of freedom in the face of the revelation that here in the universe we are not alone, that the infringements and fractures between us don't amount to a great deal when you consider that there are presumably powerful civilizations that could wipe us out like that. Let's get on with the business of using diplomacy and peacemaking as the modalities of our time. No, instead of that, let's prepare for more war against people with big eyes and grey faces. I hate those grey-faced bastards flying around like that. Ignore the rules of gravity, would you? You son of a bitch! So, with all these UFO whistleblowers, some of them from pretty respected positions within the deep state, how have the Pentagon reacted? What's their reevaluation of the new reality that we find ourselves living in? The head of the Pentagon's UFO office has slammed last week's shocking congressional hearing in which 3 whistleblowers claimed they had first-hand encounters or knowledge about secret government programs involving technology that is non-human. Firstly, why have you even got a UFO office if you don't think there's such a thing as UFOs? What are you doing in that UFO office? Nothing. There's nothing to do in there because UFOs are not real. We just sit in there and we do nothing all day long except not auditing our massive expenditure on wars. We sit in there with calculators doing nothing. I actually was able to write boobless. Look, I have a UFO office if you don't think there are such things as UFOs. How could there be non-human technology? All day long in the UFO office, we laugh and laugh about the ridiculousness of that. Next door in the crocodile office, they're astonished about events in Florida where people claim there are weird, big, jagged-toothed lizard things biting people on the toes. What a lot of bullshit. Sean Kilpatrick issued a statement Friday denying some of the witnesses' claims. David Grush, a former top intelligence official, testified that in his role liaising with Kilpatrick's office on UFOs, he discovered the government was keeping crashed non-human spacecraft secret from the public and illegally from Congress. So how is this being used now? As a distraction from criminality within government, from ludicrous jumped-up charges and bizarre hearings, from FBI deep state corruption? Perhaps it's being used in all of these ways. But one thing that the Pentagon are not doing is admitting that it's plausible and true. So remember, those of you that sort of just automatically, if they say UFOs are real, UFOs are not real, remember, it could be a bit more complex than that. But in his statement, Kilpatrick called the testimony insulting. He's insulted by that. Here in the UFO office, we don't hear any crazy talk about UFOs. When I shut that door of my UFO office, I don't hear about aliens or spacemen or spacecraft. We sit in there and we talk about stuff that only happens here on Earth. That's it. I'm insulted by that. Hey, what do you think all these spaceships are that we got around here and these gravity-defying machines and this alien corpse? And what's David Gross talking about? I don't want to hear it. Shut the UFO office door. And I don't want to hear a word out of you, E.T., or you, Alf, and Chewbacca. Shut your mouth. I don't want to hear it!
Better late than never.
And claims Grush was never a representative to his unit, officially called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. We don't want any anomalies or resolutions in that office. Grush never fitted in here at the UFO department. He kept going on about like lights in the sky and space people and stuff, getting on my fucking nerves. I can't just disavow David Grush just because he says that there's UFOs in the UFO office. The claims directly contradict Grush's previous description of his government roles, vetted by both the House Oversight Committee and media, that he served as the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency lead on UFOs, reporting to AARO until April this year. Kilpatrick, who claims that at the UFO office they never talk about UFOs and don't acknowledge UFOs, is also lying about Grush's role, saying he was nothing to do with it, because the Oversight Committee have already vetted the claims and found them to be plausible, reasonable and true, and that the matter should be addressed with some urgency. Kilpatrick's talking about David Grush like he was an ex-girlfriend. I never liked David Grush. He was bad in bed. He was lazy. He always left stuff on his side on the floor. He never cleared up. I never said you could keep a toothbrush in there. I hate you, Grush, and I've never loved you. Kilpatrick, in a personal statement, all his statements are personal. He's living on mad, giddy emotion. Reportedly posted on his LinkedIn page. Page. Newly single. And you better believe I'm ready to mingle, David Grush. Although not with UFOs, because they ain't real. In a personal statement on his LinkedIn page, slammed the hearing, saying he was deeply disappointed at the denigration of civil and defence staff. He's an emotional lunatic, Kilpatrick, isn't he? You never even worked here, David Grush, and UFOs are definitely not real. Now get this lightsaber out of here! I cannot let yesterday's hearing pass without sharing how insulting it was to the officers of the Department of Defence and Intelligence community, he wrote. The guy's running on pure emotion, working in the UFO office, denying the existence of UFOs and treating former employees like they're lovers that jilted him at the altar. Among Grush's eye-popping claims at Wednesday's hearing were suggestions the government may have been involved in murder while covering up its alleged UFO secrets. So it's quite serious stuff's being alleged here. Grush told lawmakers that he was scared for his own life after becoming a whistleblower. Well, we all know that whistleblowers are generally treated with a good deal of respect and don't end up regularly homeless and vilified in the mainstream media. Let's have a look at some of those congressional hearings.
We begin with that historic UFO hearing on Capitol Hill today, as we just said, the bipartisan push for transparency.
Oh, bipartisan, that's good news. Everyone could just get along and buy each other a Coca-Cola. Whenever both parties come together, it means only one thing. We're all agreed that we want more money. It's always that.
What are these unidentified objects? Where did they come from? And are we alone?
I think what you've not understood there is the word unidentified.
Take a listen. Here are some of the key highlights from that hearing.
I was informed.
Yeah, Jeremy Corbell, shout out.
In the course of my official duties
of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
We can't keep going on about intergalactic entities and bizarre philosophical considerations without the help of our partners and sponsors. It's not easy for us to get sponsors because we like telling the truth. And the truth is that usually corporations have too much power and often you're sold stuff that you don't need. If you do need this product or want this product and want to take advantage of the offer that we can give you, here it is. Stay to the end. I'll try and make it as entertaining as the rest of our content. I know you. You'd like to drop those leftover pandemic pounds that you put on during the pandemic because you were sad inside because of the pandemic. But how sick are you also of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets that probably don't even work anyway and might make your feet change colour? I've been there. I've done that. They don't work. They're a con. They're a trick. It's skullduggery. Do you know what actually works? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruit and vegetables every single day. But who among us has time to prepare that every single day? This brings us around to Field of Greens. Field of Greens is a science-backed formula of specific fruits and vegetables you won't find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you can burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way, and Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof comes at your next checkup when the doctor goes, whatever you're doing, keep it up. Okay, let's get you started with 15% off your first order. Visit brickhouserussell.com, promo code BRAND. That's brickhouserussell.com, promo code BRAND. And now, let's go back to that deep, intelligent piece of media critique analysis that you were just watching.
The controller told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
It says Tic Tac was far beyond current tech. Oh, they don't mean ordinary Tic Tacs. My God, it's sweet, it's sour, there's so many of them in here. This is blowing my mind. What's that in the sky? Nothing. Get out of my UFO office. How dare you even point up there? These are delicious, though.
Tic Tac, sir?
We arrived at the location at approximately 20,000 feet, and the controller called merge plot, which means that our radar blip was now in the same resolution cell as the contact.
Obviously, something extraordinary is going on and has been going on for some time. That's what I believe. And we shouldn't perhaps be surprised that how this phenomena is being reduced is the same way every miracle of technology and revelation is. Wow, the internet! We can all talk to each other from across the world. That means we could organize new communities. We could find people that we have common interests with. Why? We could set about projects to save the world together. It doesn't matter how unusual or strange you are, you'll be able to talk to someone who knows exactly how you feel. We could do that. Or also, we could spy on everyone, say everyone's a bastard and make everyone fight all the time, and create a climate of hatred, surveillance, and censorship. Oh, yeah, that's also possible, I suppose. So we shouldn't be surprised that the UFO phenomena, like there's lights in the sky, there's dizzying technology, this means that our interpretation of what God is, what prophets are, what life, biology, chemistry, the most rudimentary understanding of the universe has to be reevaluated, which we already know from quantum physics. All of the things that we consider to be static amount to little more than local customs in our particular dimension, on our particular plane of reality. This is just obviously evidence of that. Instead of recognizing that what we have here is an opportunity to reevaluate our philosophy and our approach to life at a time when it's bloody needed because there's wars and fracture all over the place. Instead, it's just like, can we use this to keep our existing system going and in fact yet more profitable for the very people and institutions that have proven to be utterly corrupt? Yeah, I suppose we could say that these intergalactic beings are kind of like Putins, space Putins, and that we should kill those bastards before they cancer shit all over our civilization. I like it.
All 4 of us, because we were in F-18Fs, so we had pilots and Wizzo in the back seat, looked down saw a white Tic Tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping pong ball.
Stop using stupid things. Tic tac, ping pong. It's like a ding dong, a tic tac. Use sensible space words.
As we started clockwise towards the object, my Wizzo and I decided to go down and take a closer look with the other aircraft staying in high cover to observe both us and the Tic Tac. We proceeded around the circle about 90 degrees from the start of our descent, and the object suddenly shifted its longitudinal axis, aligned it with my aircraft, and began to climb. We considered 270 degrees and we went nose low to where the Tic Tac would have been. Our altitude at this point was about 15,000 feet, and the Tic Tac was about 12,000.
You're saying tic-tac too much. You're going to have to think of another word for it because it's ruining the whole hearing. Okay, one way we could undermine this intergalactic technologically advanced species is by referring to their vehicles after sweeties. One of them was a little bit like a tic-tac, another one was a little bit like a Jim Jam. They were like sort of Cheetos in the sky, like sort of, they smelled very vaguely of cheese. When we touched them, you got orange dust on your hands. That's why I don't trust them.
As we pulled nose onto the object, within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared.
I noticed that one corner of the spacecraft contained like a fruity jelly, and you could tip it into the main one. They had like Lucky Charms. There's lots of spacecraft that was just little circles like Cheerios, but every so often there was like a pink one or a green one, and those ones were sweeter.
Our wingmen, roughly 8,000 feet above us, lost contact also. We immediately turned back to see where the white water was at, and it was gone also. So as we started to turn back towards the east, the controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cat point, roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute."
I bit the end off of it, and then inside it was a delicious cream, and I sucked it out of it. It's like a Sky Twinkie.
During a training mission in Warning Area Whiskey 72, 10 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach, two F-18 Super Hornets were split by a UAP. The object, described as a dark gray or a black cube inside of a clear sphere, came within 50 feet of the lead aircraft.
At least he's describing things a bit more of a scientific way. Cubes, spheres, geometric, Pythagoras. That's what we want. Not like, it's like a bag of potato chips in there, but you could pour your own. They're making it like childhood nostalgia snacks. I hope that guy don't have to ever describe alien corpses. It was a lot like Big Bird, thick, long, yellow feathers, and then there's one like Mr. Snuffleupagus. Two of them, even though they were the same gender, lived together, and it made me think, maybe like that we could all just live together regardless of what sex we are. Are you describing Sesame Street right now? No, I remember them saying out the window, "Can you tell me how to get..." No, that was Sesame Street.
And was estimated to be 5 to 15 feet in diameter. The mission commander terminated the flight immediately and returned to base. Our squadron submitted a safety report, but there was no official acknowledgement of the incident and no further mechanism to report the sightings. Soon, these encounters became so frequent that aircrew would discuss the risk of UAP as part of their regular pre-flight briefs.
That's pretty amazing. It just became ordinary and acceptable. So, look, I know loads of you think this is a distraction, and in a way, I agree with you. And I know that those of you knew that this would be used to leverage greater budgets, and plainly you're right about that, because that is what's happening. But I also think you have to remain open to the possibility that this is real, just on the ordinary basis that we are in a limitless expanse of space, and we only understand reality through our own sensory instruments and the magnification of our own sensory instruments. And it's entirely possible that there are entities that are interdimensionally distinct from us. And these descriptions are the kind of things that were kept out of the public eye for a long time for a reason, because the natural questions to start asking yourself are ontological ones about the nature of being. Wait a minute, if we're not alone in the universe, what is the veracity of all of our existing power structures? You know what I mean? It's pretty fundamental. You start saying, why should we have centralized top-down government? Why should we have nation states? Everything now is open for question. What it exposes is the capriciousness of culture. That culture is not arbitrary because it's evolved based on sort of principles that are as close to universal as we might be able to conceptualize and understand. But we should be willing to reevaluate things that are not working. Are there things that are not working? Yeah, we seem to be in this sort of mad ongoing culture war. People want to censor us and surveil us. People are being turned against each other. There are literal wars going on. There are plainly elites that are cooperating at an international level. There's deep state corruption. Right, good. We've agreed on that, haven't we? So is it possible that we could really change stuff? Oh no, this is just how things have to be. No, because there's fucking space aliens. Everything's open now. Or if not space aliens, refreshing, delicious, minty snacks flying around the world. Yeah, they are delicious. It makes you wonder if, maybe I could eat an oniony sandwich with some bologna or whatever, and then straight away eat a Tic Tac after that and carry on with my day. So many questions.
The majority of witnesses are commercial pilots at major airlines. Often, they are veterans with decades of flying experience. Pilots are reporting UAP at altitudes that appear above them at 40,000 feet, potentially in low Earth orbit or in the gray zone below the Kármán line.
This guy, they should have put him on first because he's really taking all the joy out of it. He's making it sort of boring, isn't he? One guy makes it boring, the other one makes it ridiculous. Like one turns them into sort of snacks from yesteryear. The other one makes it so mathematical, I'm sort of switching off.
Making inexplainable maneuvers like right-hand turns and retrograde orbits or J-hooks. If everyone could see the sensor and video data I witnessed, our national conversation would change.
He makes an important point. He's basically saying this is what you want from any witness, really. If you knew what I have seen, then you would regard reality entirely differently. What's masterful about the way this is being conceptualized, framed and contained is we're keeping it to a sort of a debate around mechanics and technology and public defense and national security, when really what we're being invited to do is to push beyond our understanding of reality. And that's obviously what's required at the most basic level. If you want to change the world, you can't go, we're going to change the world, but only like this. That's what contemporary politics offers you. You can have this one or this one, and the undergirding remains unaltered. What a story like this could do is invite us to go, hang on a minute, everything's different from how we thought it was. So should we start looking at how we might differently organise society? The answer to that is, of course, yes.
I urge us to put aside stigma and address the security and safety issue this topic represents. If UAP are foreign drones, it is an urgent national security problem. If it is something else, it is an issue for science.
So that's an interesting conclusion. If it's drones, it's a matter of national security, therefore give us some more money. If it's not drones, then it's a matter for science. But beyond science, for massive philosophical and contemplative change, a new Weltanschauung, a new look at reality, a new understanding of what the world and obviously plainly universe we live in actually is. So it's not surprising it's being framed in this way. It's not surprising that it's being reduced to a sort of a military matter, because ultimately this is beyond the outer reaches of control as we could understand control. Like, this is not Russia or China, massive opponents that could potentially annihilate even a vast country like the United States. This is about intergalactic power. It's by its nature beyond our conception, beyond our understanding. But that's precisely where we need to go. So this is of course a matter for science, but it's also a matter for philosophy. And I mean that on an individual level, because what I believe in is that your individual freedom and your individual understanding is what influences the flow of world power. Not currently with the institutions that we have and the structures that we have, but with the introduction of information like this, it invites us to view reality differently. And you know what I'm talking about. New individual power, new community power, a new understanding of the way that we view the most immersive and ubiquitous structures could change. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments? You were right about so much. Distraction, raise money, all that stuff. But what do you think about it ontologically? If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these. Remember, turn on the notification bell and subscribe. We need you with us. More important than any of that, though, is if you can, please stay free. Have a Tic Tac. Yeah, delicious, delicious intergalactic goodness.